welcome to this episode of ICC Crack the Wellness Code. This is a program of ICC. Now we are all ready to hear Swami Paramananda from the Bahamas, and he has been kind to give us time today, and it's 9 o'clock for him, almost 9 o'clock. And thank you, Swamiji, for making this adjustment for us. It's wonderful to have you. I am so delighted that you are here, and I'm also delighted to have Gopi Kalail with us. He is the chief evangelist, digital transformation, Google. He's a public speaker, author, and of course, a great supporter of ICC Crack the Wellness Code. Gopi, it's always wonderful to have you. And I know that you had a lot of pressing commitments, and you are here. And also thank you for bringing Swamiji. I think nobody can introduce Swamiji better than you. You had the experience of being in Bahamas, right there, on ground zero. And I know there are a lot of people from Google and other corporates who have been there. So it must be a fantastic experience, and we are all here in CWC, and all of us in ICC. We just want to be there and hear more from you, and of course, Swamiji. And you're the right person to actually introduce Swamiji to us and to the community. So over to you, Gopi.
Thank you, Somnath. So it's my pleasure, privilege, and honor to introduce to you Swami Paramananda, a longtime friend, associate, teacher of mine. I last saw Swami Paramananda in 2019 when I could travel, and we were together in New York City at the United Nations in the General Assembly Hall. It was International Day of Yoga, and Swami Paramananda was leading a group of people through a yoga practice on the main stage in the General Assembly Hall. It was a really momentous event, and that is part of his spirit to demystify the entire science and philosophy of yoga and bring it to mass general audiences around the world. And this has been his lifelong mission. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the same month or subsequent month, there's a 4-page spread on him and his practice in the Yoga Journal magazine. So Swami Paramananda is originally from Israel, or in the sannyas lineage, you would call it. His Purvashram is from Israel, but currently he splits his time between the United States, the Bahamas, and India. He manages the Shivananda Ashram Ranch outside New York in Woodburn. And he also spends a good portion of his time at the Shivananda Beach retreat on Paradise Island in Bahamas. A beautiful, beautiful setting. I would urge you all to visit. I go there every year. I take groups of Googlers there on annual retreats when I teach workshops there. And he also spends time teaching in India. What is amazing about Swami Paramananda and his other co-teachers who are part of that same lineage, first of all, I shared with them when I was a teenager growing up in India. I ran away to an ashram to study yoga at a very early age. I was drawn to it, and I went actually to the Shivananda ashram in Kerala outside Trivandrum, and I studied at my first exposure to the classical lineages of yoga. And subsequently, I've been very associated with the Shivananda ashram system in the United States, and multiple times a year I do retreats there. And as I mentioned before, a lot of Googlers come to these retreats. We call it the Yoglers, the yoga program for Googlers retreats. And I had extensive experience working with Swami Paramananda. And I want to, before he starts speaking, and he will go deep into it, I wanted to mention two aspects. Yoga as a science and philosophy often can be understood in a limited way in the Western world. Most people associate it with just a practice of some kind of stretching exercise in a blue mat in all of these trendy yoga studios all over. But yoga is much more deeper than that. And in the teachings of Swami Paramananda and the Shivananda lineage, they stick to the classical roots of yoga. They absolutely don't compromise. So when you go to any of the courses at the ashram, the main teacher's training course or even a weekend program, they expose you to the 4 main paths of yoga, and that being Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, which together form the foundation of the yoga principle, which at some point during the discussion we will get into. So I really appreciate the fact that they have stayed faithful to the traditional forms of yoga, even as yoga morphs into many more forms, sometimes very far away from the core traditions. The second is the way in which Swami Paramananda and his other fellow teachers make it practical and demystify it. And early on, when I was studying with them, I was drawn to the elegant way in which they take the whole vast roving philosophy of yoga and reduce it to 5 daily principles that you can practice. They call it the 5 Ps. The 5 Ps being proper exercise or asana, proper relaxation, like the deep shavasana technique. The third being proper breathing, the pranayama techniques. The fourth is proper diet. So eat positive, healthy, whole, plant-based whole foods. And the fifth being positive thinking and meditation. So together, these 5 Ps is a really practical daily guide to a form of yogic living. And the thing I've appreciated mostly about Swami Paramananda, which is why I wanted him to come and speak today, is he's taken this vast roving philosophy of yoga, demystified it, made it very practical and applicable in our modern life in a way that is accessible to a lot of people, whether or not you subscribe to some of the classical philosophical leanings of the yoga tradition. So it's my, again, absolute honor to introduce to CWC the Swami Paramananda from the Shivananda Ashram on Paradise Island in Bahamas. Thank you, Swamiji, for joining us at this very late. I know you go to bed early and get up early, so I really appreciate you staying up late just so that you can speak to our worldwide audiences. And with that, I hand it over to Somnath and Swami Paramananda. Please welcome to this forum, Swami Paramananda.
Gopi, I do not want to disturb the flow. I think what a great introduction. We're just waiting to hear Swamiji, so I just would request Swamiji to begin his session.
Thank you very much, Somnaji, for your wonderful welcoming. And it is a great privilege and honor to be here with everyone. And I would like first to thank also very much Gopi Kalailji for making this connection, this wonderful connection, and for his very kind and generous introduction. One more point I will just mention that originally I'm from Texas, not from Israel. You will not hear it in my accent, but originally from Texas and grew up in Israel. And that is before the sannyasa days, but just as a small remark there. So it is a great honor and a privilege to be this evening here with everyone. And just before starting, I would like to invite us all for a short practice of guided meditation, just for a few minutes to help bring some good energy and focus to the mind before we start our evening together. So I invite you to sit with the back straight wherever you are. And if it's feasible to be, if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes, sitting tall, pulling the shoulders back, and taking a deep inhalation through the nostrils, long exhalation. Again, inhale deeply, exhale completely. And we just take these few minutes here in silence to focus on our breathing, paying full attention to the breath, how it comes in through the nostrils, and paying full attention to how the breath slowly comes out from the nostrils. Conscious breathing, and taking this opportunity to let go of any worries, any plans, and just to be fully present with the breath. Closely observe the air, how it comes in through the nostrils, and closely observe how the air slowly comes out of the nostrils. utilizing the power in our breathing to bring stillness and peace to the mind. Just take here a few more moments in silence, conscious of each inhalation, conscious of each exhalation, sitting tall and steady, eyes closed if you can, and witness the breath. Allow the breath to relax the mind, conscious of your breathing. And you can slowly open the eyes. And again, we're very happy and grateful and honored to be here with you this evening, with everyone. I would like to take the opportunity and express our deep gratitude to Somnaji for his wonderful work at the Crack the Wellness Code and for inviting us this evening. We are very grateful for Dr. Sachin Deshmukh for joining us this evening, and very grateful for Somya and the whole team at the Crack the Wellness Code for all their hard work and great service. And again, expressing our deep gratitude to our long time close friend Gopika Lailji and all of his wonderful work in Google with the yoga program there and his long-term connection with the Shivananda ashrams for many years. So we're very grateful for all of your support. So as mentioned, I'm here in the ashram in the Bahamas. Now it's nighttime here. If it would have been daytime, we could have showed you the beach. And just to share with you that, as Gopi mentioned, generally for the past 12 years or so, I mostly spent my time in our ashram in upstate New York. And I came here to the ashram in the Bahamas a year ago, over a little bit more than a year. Just before the pandemic started, I actually came here to study in a certain course. And just while I was here, the pandemic started, and then it just seemed to make more sense to stay here in the Bahamas. And I have been here ever since, and I am here for now. And really, the ashram is closed these days, and we are living here, 20-something staff, mostly swamis and brahmacharis, people who've dedicated their life to the practice of yoga and the study and the teachings. And we've been here pretty much like on a deserted island, in a sense, a beautiful ashram and paradise island. And actually, we wanted tonight first to share with you a few images, because it's a nighttime and we cannot really share, but we just wanted to share with you so you get a little bit of a sense and a feel to where we are here in the ashram in the Bahamas. So if it's okay with you, I will share the screen and just share with you a few images of the beautiful ashram. Here you can see one of the beautiful beaches in the world, where we regularly practice yoga here on this beach. I'll just show you. So the beautiful beach where people come from all over the world to practice yoga, and we'll share a few more images with you. Here we can see this is our main yoga platform just on next to the beach, and these are students within a yoga teachers training course, which is something that we do regularly here at the ashram. Actually, our organization is the first organization to begin yoga teachers training courses in the West back in 1969. So this is students on the beach, and we'll share with you a few more images here. When people come to the ashram, we have a wonderful connection with nature, with silent meditation walks early in the morning next to the beach. And there's a wonderful sense of community. People come together, especially enjoying the wonderful meals that are here. And it is truly an ashram that follows the principles of unity and diversity. So we respect and honor all different faiths and traditions. And also we can show you here at the ashram, we have a resident a priest from South India, from Kerala, and there's several main temples where the priest is performing daily worship. And also you can see the image of the drum there that is showing how at the ashram we have many different types of musicians, great kirtan singers, musicians from all different traditions. We have scientists, world-renowned speakers like Gopi Kalail, who comes to the ashram regularly, and people come from all over the world here to the ashram to study and learn yoga and all different traditions. And we can share with you, just so you can see, this is our teachers. Swami Shivananda on the left, who is considered to be one of the great saints of modern time in India. Swami Shivananda Saraswati from Rishikesh, who had many close disciples who became great yoga masters on their own. And one of his closest disciples, Swami Vishnu Devananda, who is the founder of this ashram and this worldwide organization. He was sent by Swami Shivananda in the end of the 1950s, in 1957, to the West to share yoga. So a lot of what we know about yoga today around the world is due to the work of Swamiji, of Swami Vishnu. The story is actually that Swami Shivananda gave him 10 rupees and told them, go to the West. People are waiting for you to teach them yoga. And Swamiji traveled with those 10 rupees. Actually, he never even used them. And he started traveling, and everywhere he was teaching yoga, and people were inspired by his teaching. And like this, he traveled around the world and started this amazing operation of this organization where millions of people were inspired by yoga teaching over the years. So it's a great work of Swamiji, of Swami Vishnu. And what we wanted to share with you today is some of the teachings of Swami Vishnu of what is called the 5 points of yoga. And Gopi shared in the introduction these 5 principles, 5 points of yoga, which is proper exercise, asanas, proper breathing, pranayama, proper relaxation, the shavasana, proper diet, the yogic diet, and positive thinking and meditation, which is Vedanta and Dhyana, being meditation. So tonight, in our short time together, we wanted to share a little bit about these principles of these 5 points of yoga. And these 5 points, really, on each one of these points, we could have a whole course. There's so much to share about these principles, but we wanted to give a bit of an overview in our time here together about these main principles of yoga. Really, Swami Vishnu used to explain that the essence of yoga is encapsulated within these 5 principles. And really, what that means, it means that to achieve the great benefits that yoga has for us is achieved by applying these 5 principles in our daily life. And here we can see how much yoga is so practical, with such great common sense, such great wisdom, because we can see how yoga is so connected to our daily life as we have it already now. It's just a matter of learning to do things that we already do, but with greater awareness, with greater understanding. And so that's really the beauty of it, that it's so practical, and it doesn't require from us to make any drastic changes. It's just a matter of shifting a little bit the attitude towards what we're already doing in our life. So this is what we wanted to share with you a little bit this evening. So the first point in these principles of yoga is proper exercise. And now we all know that exercise is essential for our well-being. You know, often it is said in today that the modern smoking is sitting, meaning one of the main causes of our ill health in our society today is not sufficient amount of movement, not exercising enough. We know how much time we spend at the desk in front of the computer and not sufficiently moving the body. So exercise is definitely the first and foremost principle for being healthy and happy in life. In order to maintain this body, we have to exercise it. And all exercises are valuable, the yogis would teach. It could be running, swimming, cycling, anything in which some movement that will improve the circulation is of great, great value to us. But the yogis share with us the great system of the yoga asanas, the yoga postures, as being an ideal system of exercise. And really, again, the asanas, to talk about asanas is a big, big subject. But few things that we can just say tonight, the uniqueness about the yoga asanas is that the asanas are focusing a lot on flexibility, and especially the flexibility of the spine. And we know it's a common saying that a person is as young as much their spine is flexible. You know, one of the main things that as we get older in life, we start having issues with our back. We start feeling more stiff, different back problems. And as the back starts giving us problems, this restricts our whole vitality. But as we practice regularly yoga asanas and maintain a strong and healthy back, strong and healthy spine, we are supporting the function of our nervous system that ensures great vitality for the whole body. So yoga asanas are really a special type of exercise. They're also quite unique because the yoga asanas are training in concentration. They are not just superficial training for the body, but they are special exercises for development of the mind, for cultivation of awareness, mindfulness, and it is a preparatory practices for meditation. So practice of asanas is an ideal exercise to also support our mental peace and our mental well-being. So this is the first principle out of the 5 points. To be healthy and happy, we have to regularly exercise, and asanas is an ideal system of exercise. So that is the first point, proper exercise. The second point out of these 5 points is proper breathing, or what we refer to in Sanskrit as pranayama. Now, the yogis teach us that to be healthy in our body and mind, one of the great means to achieve that is by learning how to breathe properly. We all know that breath is life itself. The difference between a live body and a dead body is breath. The live body is breathing. We all know that. Actually, in Hebrew, it's very interesting. The word for breath is neshima, and the word for soul is neshama. So they're very, very close, breath and soul. And actually, it's in several languages, you can see the connection between breath and the spirit or soul. And we all know that our life is dependent on breathing. But what the yogis point out to us, which is very interesting, is how much that the quality of our life is dependent on the way that we breathe. That how much we can improve our physical well-being, how much we can improve our emotional and mental state just by breathing properly. Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Buddhist teacher, shares very beautifully that to breathe consciously to take a deep breath is one of the two most important things for achieving enlightenment. That in order to achieve enlightenment, all you have to do is take a deep breath, as he says very beautifully. The second thing that Thich Nhat Hanh says, it's quite beautiful, for the main thing that we can do to achieve enlightenment, he says just to smile. Okay? So both things, the moment that we breathe deeply or once we smile, that frees ourselves from all the burden of our mind, frees ourselves from the restrictions of our wrong thinking. So breathing deeply is key for our physical wellness and for our mental peace. So in yoga, we learn how to tap into this resource of wellness, our breathing. And by regular and daily practice, we become more proficient in using our breathing. We learn to breathe in a more efficient manner, where we're able to remove stale air from the lower part of our lungs. We learn how to increase the level of oxygen coming into our body. And we gradually become more and more conscious of the connection between our breathing and our mental state and our emotional state. So regular training and breathing exercises is a key for achieving more control over our mind. You know, this is something that we all know instinctually. When we have a good friend that comes our way, who is a little bit agitated, a little bit stressed, what is the first thing we tell them? Just take a deep breath, just breathe. We don't necessarily know anything about pranayama, anything about yoga, but we know instinctually, if somebody is agitated, just breathe, and then you will calm down. So the yogis say, don't wait to be agitated to start breathing. Breathe deeply regularly, and you will maintain great equilibrium. You will maintain great peace of mind. You will have wonderful vitality by regular breathing exercises. So this is the second point for wellness, proper breathing. Third point that the yogis teach us to achieve maximum vitality for our body and mind is proper relaxation, or what in Sanskrit we refer to as shavasana, learning how to relax properly. You know, in modern times, we know so much research has been done about stress being a main cause of disease and illness. So many physical, mental, and emotional problems come as a result of stress. Now, the yogis don't say that stress is bad. Actually, stress is inevitable for every human being, and it is actually ordained to be there in our life as something that actually supports our evolution. Our progress in life comes through stress. But the problem is when we don't know how to manage stress, when we don't know how to deal with our stress. That leads to so many different issues in our body and mind. So the yogis teach us how to cope with stress, how to relieve stress from its very root. And this is through the practice of proper relaxation. Proper relaxation is a relaxation that is done on 3 levels: physical level, mental level, and spiritual level. So in the yogic tradition, we learn how to relieve tension from our physical body, we learn how to relieve tension from our mind, and we learn how to connect with our innermost self, the spirit or consciousness, through the practice of proper relaxation. So we all know that relaxation is part of our life. None of us wants to or is capable of working all the time. We all need some breaks. But the problem is that many times we take breaks in a way that are not really conducive for us. Like online, immediately we can take some breaks. Go to Ben and Jerry's, we get some break. So many different things we do just to cope with our stress. And that's okay, that's normal. But in yoga, we learn how to do things in a more efficient way. And we learn how to truly relax. And this is this practice of proper relaxation. So that is the third point. Then the fourth point for achieving the maximum wellness and vitality within our body and mind, according to the yogis, is proper diet. Proper diet being the fourth point. So we all know how much our body is made of what we eat. That if we eat junk food, the body will get sick. If we eat healthy food, we maintain good strength in our body, we maintain the health of the body. Now, the yogis take it further. The yogis explain not just that our body is impacted and made from the food that we eat, but also our mind, our thoughts are impacted by what we intake. The food that we eat has an effect on the type of thoughts that we have. Certain foods bring our energy down. We know sometimes if we overeat or we eat food that is very difficult to digest, the only thing that we can do after that is have a siesta. That's the maximum type of activity that is possible. In compared to certain foods that give us energy, what the yogis call prana, they give us strength, and they also promote clear thinking. They promote a balanced state of mind. Certain foods cause agitation in the mind. We know if we drink too much coffee, then the mind we experience, the mind is rushing. So certain things are very clear and evident, but certain things are more subtle. And as we practice more yoga, we practice more meditation, we start being more conscious to the impact of the things that we intake. We start feeling, oh, this food really doesn't agree with my digestion. Or we start saying, oh, this food really brings my mind down or is agitating for me. So we gradually start making conscious choices about what we eat and how we eat and when we eat, all because we want to be able to perform in peak performance. We want to be able for our body to be full of energy. We want our mind to be inspired and positive. We don't want to take in things that will bring us down and agitate us. So as we practice more yoga and meditation, we become aware of it. And the yogis actually teach us that everything should be taken into consideration. How the food is grown, how the food is cooked, how we eat it. It's also a practice. All these are taken into consideration in the proper diet. This is a big, big subject, very beautiful subject about this practice of the yogic diet. One thing more I'll just share about it this evening, which is important, is that the yogis always follow the principle of ahimsa, non-violence, in terms of the food choices, and in terms of every action that in yoga we live by, is to try to refrain hurting others as much as we can in our daily life. There is an understanding that by increasing this sensitivity to others, by increasing the level of compassion that we have to others, we will benefit from it. By us being more caring, by us being more compassionate, we achieve and experience more peace of mind. We feel more at peace and at ease with ourselves. On a subconscious level, it begins. So the yogis teach that when we choose our food, we also take into consideration that, of course, that principle of ahimsa, non-violence. So that is the fourth point, the yogic diet. And the last point, the fifth point, which is really ultimately the most important point, is positive thinking and meditation. The yogis explain that the first 4 points, proper exercise, proper breathing, proper relaxation, and proper diet, are really preparatory practices. They are preparations to enable us to be proficient in this fifth point, positive thinking and meditation, which is really the most important thing to practice to achieve happiness in this life. The most important thing to practice to achieve radiant health. The most important thing to practice to achieve great fulfillment in our life. Our whole life is dependent on this fifth point of positive thinking and meditation, which is really the teaching and the practice of how to utilize our thoughts in the most beneficial way. See, we all are thinking all the time. Thoughts are going there in our mind from the moment that we wake up until we go to sleep. Sometimes it's also disturbing us from being able to sleep, but our mind is going all the time. And the yogis teach us that by learning how to think properly, this is how we totally transform our life. Our life is the outcome of our thoughts, and how the state of our physical body is dependent on our thoughts. We know negative thinking, agitation, stress, anger causes illness in the body. Positive thoughts, cheerfulness, joy, kindness is vitalizing the body. How we are able to do things in our life, how we're able to succeed in our life is all dependent on the way that we think. Our whole life is an expression of our thoughts. How our relationships, how we relate to one another, how we're able to live in harmony with our environment. It's all dependent on the way that we think. So the yogis teach us, don't let the thoughts just be. Learn to watch the thoughts. Learn to cultivate positive thoughts. Learn how to manage the negative thoughts, the anger, the fear, the jealousy, the depression. All this can be managed. All this can be transformed. All it requires is some awareness, some understanding, and then practice. It's not complicated. It's just a matter of practice. And the yogis share with us that by putting these principles into our daily life, we achieve the highest potential that we can have, this great sense of fulfillment in our life, no matter what we do with our life. One person is a Swami, one person does this, one person works in Google, one person works in the Kraken, the Wellness Code, one person lives here, one person lives there. We all have different karmas, different things to do with our life, different destinies. But that sense of fulfillment with our life, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, can be achieved and can be discovered for each and every one of us. Doesn't matter where we are and who we are. We all can feel very much at peace and inspired with our life. But it all depends on how we think. And that's what yoga teaches us to do. So Swami Vishnu used to say, health is wealth, peace of mind is happiness, and yoga shows the way. So really, this yoga is encapsulated within these 5 principles. This is the way to achieve radiant health and peace of mind. So yoga is encapsulated within these 5 points. And really speaking, we can see that it's not something that is separated from our life. It's just a matter of common sense. We all are exercising. We all move our body to one degree or the other. But yoga teaches us how to achieve the maximum benefits from exercise. We all are breathing every day, all day. Yoga teaches us how to breathe consciously and get more benefits out of this process of breathing. We all relax. We all need break. We all need some time off. But yoga teaches us how to relax in the most efficient way that will enhance our body and mind. We all eat every day, many times a day. Yoga teaches us how to eat in a way that is going to be more beneficial for us. And we all think all the time. And yoga teaches us how to think in a way that will be giving us the highest benefits. We cannot even comprehend what can be discovered in our life, what potential is awaiting for us just by learning how to think correctly, how to think properly, which that's what yoga and the philosophy of Vedanta guides us to do, how to think in a way that can allow us to realize the highest potential as a human being. So these are the incredible 5 points of yoga that are extremely practical. It's just a matter of a little bit of understanding and then a little bit of practice in our daily life. So these are the 5 points of yoga that we are very happy and grateful to share with you all tonight. I just wanted to share with you one more thing, that here at the ashram, we have been closed due to the pandemic for this past year. And this ashram here in the Bahamas, we've been used to welcoming many people coming here to the ashram. And our high season, of course, is in the winter time, but it's open all year round. And in the winter time, we would have here at the ashram more than 300 people coming, and it's beautiful. Even though 300 people, it's a small island, very small, but you don't feel it like that. So peaceful. The wonderful vibrations of the beach and the many coconut trees, and people who've been practicing yoga and meditation here at the ashram since the 1960s. So wonderful, peaceful atmosphere that is highly rejuvenating. So people come here, and since the pandemic, of course, like everyone, we had to transition our teaching to the online platform. So we've been teaching many courses online, and we have satsangs, daily meditation and chanting, free of charge. Everyone is welcome every morning and evening. So the ashram, we are doing our level best to keep sharing yoga with as many people as we can. And in many ways, now with this program online, it allows us to reach many people that before we couldn't reach, who were not able to travel. We are actually now, it's our second day today of our online teachers training course. We started 2 days ago. It's our second that we're doing. And it's a beautiful program. We are used to having teachers training courses here on site, but now we started it online. And I can share with you, originally we didn't know how it's going to be, but we had our first one. It was way beyond our expectations. So people shared how much they were transformed by the immersion, by the practice. So we are very grateful for this opportunity, and even to have this event today. It's a great gift that came about in these challenging times. But as we know in yoga, that every difficulty, every challenge has its blessing behind it. It has its opportunity. With every difficult situation, there is actually some opportunity for good to come about it. And this positive thinking that yoga teaches us to have, to learn to see that every situation in our life is actually a blessing. Sometimes it's in disguise, and it takes a little more time to be able to see it. But ultimately, there is something that is valuable for our evolution behind every situation, even in the most difficult situations. So again, we are very grateful for being able to share this evening. And I would like to thank again Somna Ji and the whole team of the Crack the Wellness Code and Gopi. And I would like to thank you very much for this opportunity to share this evening with you.
What a great coverage, Swamiji. What a great coverage. We can feel the vibrations. We can feel the vibrations, and everybody has stayed back, and they are ready to ask questions. Actually, we are getting questions from multiple channels. So let me do this. First, there are two who have raised their hands, so I'll have them speak. So the first is Veena Kapil. So Veena, you can speak since you raised your hand. I have, you can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Hi, I'm Veena, and I'm so much impressed with this yoga and meditation. It changed my life. It is like that I'm so much addicted that I have to get up, do my all other chores, and then come and get ready for yoga. After yoga, meditation, my sleep is also becoming very nice. I could sleep at night. And then I have more consideration about the things, whatever I'm doing, I have to understand that thing, and then I have to copy that thing. Really, it's a wonderful gift from Dr. Sachin. And after hearing all these conversations with Swamiji, that's really a blessing to me. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you, Vinaji. Swamiji, yes, health is wealth, and it's number one for happiness. And the number two needs to be relationship with family and friends, and then everything else. We do not select our blood relatives. If some of them are too negative and jealous, what can we do?
Okay. So thank you very much for this wonderful question and wonderful remark. Yes, health is wealth. That is, say, the first thing. And yes, a big part of our well-being in life is dependent on our good relationships with others, with the world at large, and definitely our closest relationships. They have a tremendous impact on our mental state. And like mentioned, we do not choose where we are born to, into which family and our relatives. And sometimes these relationships can be a bit challenging. Sometimes there could be different conflicts that can arise. And definitely that will have a lot of an effect on us, no doubt. It is one of our greatest challenges is to be able to manage relationships. Now, one thing that we have to keep in mind that our well-being is dependent on what goes on inside of us. Depends on our own emotions, on our own thoughts. Of course, our thoughts and emotions are triggered and impacted by how we interact with the world. But with the yogic training, all the different yogic practices and meditation, we become gradually more and more skilled in managing our own emotions and thoughts. Meaning that we may be faced with challenging situations outside, but we are able to maintain our balance of mind. We're able to maintain our compassion. We're able to forgive. We're able to maintain peace and joy, even though our situation around us may be challenging. Now, with family members, definitely it will have an effect on us, but with regular practice on all its different levels, we will be more skilled in dealing with it. Now, the main thing is that as we are able to stay more conscious, as we are able to stay more centered, we will be able also to support our family members and friends better. So even they may be in a negative state, maybe they're not practicing as you, maybe there's different issues that they're struggling with, but by us being able to maintain our center, by us being able to maintain our peace, we will be able to be more of a source to support them to also find that peace. But everybody eventually has to do it for themselves. We cannot change a person's mind. We can only be a source of peace and positivity. Eventually, people have to work on themselves. But definitely, with practice, we can remain joyful and peaceful even in the difficult situations, even in difficult relationships. But it requires more practice. It requires more practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. The next question. Um, is it possible to have our Kundalini awakened through yoga practice?
So a very important question. For those of you, the question is if the Kundalini can be awakened for yoga. So for those of you who are not familiar, Kundalini means the serpent power, and the yogis explain that this is a dormant spiritual energy that is located within the base of the spine, and that ultimately, through the different spiritual practices, the spiritual seeker or the yogi awakens that energy and raises that energy up to the higher psychic centers, and as a result of that experiences higher states of consciousness. And in order to be able to perceive the most subtle aspects of reality, in order to be able to perceive one's true nature, which according to the yogic teachings is of bliss absolute, that dormant energy has to be awakened. Otherwise, it's not really possible to enter into the deeper states of meditation. So many of the yogic practices are about awakening this energy. So yes, there are yoga practices that can awaken this energy. What we generally teach is not those practices. The awakening of the Kundalini, according to our tradition, is something that has to be done under a guidance of an able teacher. This is a very sacred practice to awaken the Kundalini. Very sacred, very special, and the practitioner has to be ready for it. Swami Vishnu used to say it's a little bit like walking with a chainsaw. You know, a chainsaw is a very good tool, but you need to know how to use it, otherwise you might get hurt. So in the same way, this energy is very much needed for the spiritual seeker for achieving the higher states of consciousness, but it requires close guidance by an able teacher to be able to do it correctly and properly. So yes, yoga can awaken the Kundalini. It's part of the reasons why yoga is there, but the practices that in our tradition we share and teach to the public are not practices that are meant to do that. Those are practices, advanced and sacred practices that really require a lot of preparation and personal guidance.
Thank you, Swamiji. We have some more questions, but there's something that I would like to do is to invite Kevin. He's our youth ambassador, and he runs our youth program. He's a college student studying biology and nutrition. And of course, he's does a lot of research on diet, and he's inculcating that among the youth. So we were very keen to hear from him, his perception on some of your messages, and he would like to ask a question. So over to you, Kevin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Hi, Swami. My question to you would be, what is the best way to incorporate, especially working with youth and, programming for youth, what is the biggest message that you would have to someone who would be my age or younger, in this case, ages 12 and up, on how to open themselves up to these kinds of practices and to incorporate this type of mindfulness into their lives?
Very good question. Thank you, Kevin. I can share with you that in our tradition, back already since the 1970s, one of the important works of our ashrams has been to host kids camps, teen camps, family programs, all because of the great importance at the young age to start cultivating healthy habits, to learn principles for healthy and positive living. As we know, in ancient times, yoga was practiced in what's called the Gurukula, where young people would go to an ashram and study all these principles as part of their regular education. Now, in these days, I would say that it really very much depends within the settings that we're working and the particular age group that we're teaching. Each age group will be a little bit different of how they would connect with the teaching. But the main way would be to give some experience. You see, yoga really works when people experience the benefits for themselves. So especially with the younger age, by certain practice of yoga, of some breathing, they will experience the value in it. Meaning, maybe if you just talk about it, that will not necessarily always inspire everyone at the younger age. But when a person, even a younger age, actually experience the peace that comes, the sense of wellness and ease that comes, then it will be something that a person will be inclined to do more and more. So I would say mostly by introducing some types of practices of yoga and pranayama, and how to practice depends on the group. But I would say a little bit less on the theory and more giving more of a direct experience with exercises. And then once a person sees, wow, this, I really feel good from it, even at a young age, a person will be inclined to come back to it again and again.
There is a related question. There's a related question. To what you said, what you just inferred. So, of course, this is Bala, and he says that thank you, Swamiji, so much for your presentation. Any advice for a working person like me on how to be disciplined on a daily basis to practice yoga, which makes a lot of sense?
Yes, so thank you very much, Balaji, for bringing up this is a very important point. Ultimately, the most essential thing about yoga is that we practice it. Only then it works. Only then it gives us benefits. And for most of us, we have a very busy schedule, very busy life. So how do we actually gain benefits from yoga? So the yogis say, yes, we have to be practical about it. And the way to do it is to think about our daily routine, to think already, to sit and think, okay, what time do I usually wake up? What time do I need to start engaging with work? What is my responsibility, family commitments, social commitments? So really be clear, to write it down, my current daily schedule and routine and commitments. Then to look at it and to see where we can incorporate, even if it begins with a 5 minutes. 5 minutes is better than no minutes, or 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. We start with something that is realistic for us, and we plan it into our daily routine. Ideally, in the morning before we start the day. This will give us a good start to the day on a positive note, and there's a greater possibility that we actually get it done. As we wait later in the day, we get more tired, more distracted. So if we want to really ensure that we do something, it's best to do it as soon as we can, as after waking up or taking a shower and then doing the meditation and the yoga practice. So we have to realistically plan. And again, better to do 10 minutes than no minutes. And we plan a time. And then what is very beneficial is to use some type of a diary. We call it a spiritual diary, where every night we can check off to see, did I follow my resolution? I had a resolution, a plan to do 10 minutes of meditation every morning. Then at Monday night, I check, did I do it or I didn't do it? What will happen? Let's say Monday I didn't do it. Tuesday I didn't do it. By Wednesday we'll say, okay, I have to get serious. I said I really want to do meditation every day. Let me do the meditation tomorrow. So that kind of a accountability is going to help us develop the habit of start practicing. So I would say to plan a routine, and then to you have some type of a form that will help us to maintain accountability on our resolutions.
The next question is, if one gets the feeling that some person or persons are looking at me and thinking negatively of me, how to get rid of such thoughts and what practices to follow?
Okay, so thank you very much. That's a very good question. what to do when we get the feeling of somebody thinking negative of us, and that is definitely a common, universal experience. It is inevitable for every human being to have some people thinking negative of them at one point or the other. And so how do we manage that? First of all, it very much depends what to do in terms of the settings. Who is the person, and in which setting we are at that time when we're experiencing it. The main thing, first of all, is to maintain our own positive thinking. And there is many different techniques of how to maintain positive thinking, how to overcome our own restlessness, how to overcome our agitation. And in yoga, one of the main principles is what's called in Sanskrit pratipaksha bhavana, which means the cultivation of the opposite, where if we start, let's say, feeling agitation, we start mentally affirming peace in our mind, repeating peace in our mind to shift the thoughts of agitation. Or if we feel angry, we start affirming within our mind and experiencing patience. We repeat patience within our mind. This is the method of pratipaksha bhavana, thinking about the opposite, cultivating the opposite. Now, besides that, the yogis also many times encourage the usage of mantras. Mantras are sacred sounds. Mantra literally means that which protects the mind. Protects the mind from what? From our own negative thinking. So as we repeat mantras, that's a way to, it creates like a psychic armor. So we're not as much impacted by negative thoughts around us and from our own negative thoughts. It elevates the mind. So repetition of mantras will help. Then it is a matter of training. You see, the more that we practice meditation, the more that we practice yoga, we become more and more skilled in dealing with whatever negative thoughts are there. And we become more aware of the negative thoughts. The biggest problem with negative thinking is lack of awareness. You see, when we catch the thoughts quite quickly, it's relatively easy to shift them. Like if a little bit of annoyance is there in the mind, relatively easy we can redirect the mind in a different direction. But when we're not really aware and the thoughts accumulate, they generate a great force, and then it becomes very emotional. Then it's quite difficult to shift our mind in a different direction. This is why meditation is so important, because meditation cultivates this awareness of what is going on in our mind. So meditation brings more awareness, and meditation also gives us this inner strength to direct our mind in a certain way. So when we meditate daily, we become more aware of our mind, and we become more skilled in telling the mind where to go. And positive thinking is based on that. Recognizing the negative thoughts and then having the inner strength and the skill to tell the mind, this anger is not really useful for me. Better for me to go in the direction of joy. These worries and fears are not really valuable for me. It's better for me to have confidence. It's better for me to have faith. So regular meditation practice is the main thing that will make us more skilled in positive thinking, because it increases awareness and it increases the willpower to shift the mind in the direction that we choose. So that will be the way to deal with it.
Thank you. We are getting close to the end of this session, so we'll take up two questions. So the first question is, sometimes people fall asleep during yoga nidra or meditation because they become too relaxed. How it can be avoided?
Okay, so wonderful question about falling asleep and yoga nidra or in meditation, many times a person falls asleep, especially in the practice of yoga nidra while lying on the back, just because there is a tiredness within the body and mind. The person does need that extra rest. The body can be sometimes exhausted. The body has been dealing with a lot of stress, and then we do fall asleep. And when we are relaxing in our back, it is not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing if we do fall asleep. That's a sign that we actually needed it. Now, when we sit for meditation and if we fall asleep, that's a little bit of a different story. That's definitely a sign that there is more what we call in Sanskrit tamas, or sluggishness within the system. And in order to avoid that, different things can be done. First of all, the yogis recommend to take a shower before we practice. If we take a shower, that will remove a lot of the lethargy from the system. We will be more alert and fresh. Then the yogis also recommend to practice meditation or the yoga nidra on an empty stomach. When there is no digestion going on, we'll have more energy. We will be more alert. Then also the yogis recommend to practice some pranayama, breathing exercises, especially several rounds of vigorous Kapalabhati will energize the body, will increase the level of oxygen, we will become much more alert and ready for meditation. Swami Shivananda also recommends even to practice the headstand. If somebody is comfortable and the headstand is suitable for them, the headstand will increase the amount of blood coming down to the brain and make us much more alert and ready for meditation. So these different yogic practices will definitely help us to practice meditation and remain very alert and focused and energized.
Thank you. And we'll have the last question now, Swamiji, for you. This is from Dhabal Shah, who is also in the panel for the last session that we had on the support group. And he had actually got exposed to meditation in his childhood. And he's also familiar with Swami Sivananda and some of his work. And he tells me that he's almost ready to pack up and go to Bahamas as soon as he's able to. So he has a question for you, and I would let him say that. Over to you, Dhaval.
Namaste Swamiji, what a fantastic lecture you gave, and your 5 points, we all could learn from that, I'm sure. And I look forward to coming to Bahamas soon. My question was about you. I wanted to just know what inspired you to become a yogi, and we all can learn from that experience also, as to how did the transformation take place, and whatever you want to share.
Okay, well, thank you, Dhavalji, for your very kind words. And we are very much waiting to welcome you here in the Bahamas. With a great joy. And yes, thank you for asking. I'll be happy to share as much as I can. In just a few words, basically, I would say from a young age, especially while in high school and around that age, with a lot of thoughts about, I would say, the meaning of life and the purpose of life, and a lot of doubts about what to do with my life. And I remember many times thinking to maybe take this path of maybe being a doctor, or having this path of working in the business, or so many different ideas I had of what I would do. But one thing was always troubling my mind. I always felt that no matter what I do, still the same mind will be there. Still I may accomplish this, achieve that, and still I could envision that some dissatisfaction is not going to leave me, even if I achieve or accomplish that. So I was always seeking for what is it that is really going to make me happy? What is really going to make me peaceful? And after the military service in Israel, like many Israelis, I very quickly found myself in India. And while I was in India and exposed to the practice of meditation, I went on a meditation retreat, and there it became very evident to me in this practice of meditation. It suddenly became very clear what is going to make me happy. And I felt that only by helping others to be happy, I will be happy. And I saw from this practice of meditation that this is the main way, for me at least, it became very evident as the main way to be happy. That only by learning how to manage one's thoughts, manage one's emotions, one can be fully satisfied with his or her life by learning how to deal with the mind. And it suddenly, this strong aspiration and inspiration took over me, where I knew that this is what I'm supposed to do, to share meditation with others. I didn't know how it's going to take place, where and in which means. I knew that I didn't want to worry about money. I didn't want to worry about where I'm going to be living. I just wanted to be able to be free and share these teachings that I felt so inspired that will help everyone, because it helped me so much. When I practiced meditation for the first time, I was totally taken by it, of how much clarity, how much insights were coming about my own mind. And it was this great sense of peace. So that's really what inspired me to take on this journey. I didn't know in which facet, where I would be and how I would do it, but that understanding that by helping others, I will be happy. And I felt that the best way I could help is by sharing people techniques of finding peace, of finding inner peace and happiness. So that's how I came about this path.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think it was heartwarming and inspiring to have you. I know it's getting late for you, but we are really, really enchanted by everything that you covered today. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of take-home points for the participants. And I'm sure many of us are looking forward to a retreat when that suitable time comes, definitely. So we'll be in touch, and I'm sure there's lots that we could do together. And of course, you have shared some of your programs. I think the link is there. Swambhabi is there. Thank you, Swambhabi, for helping us and coordinating this session so well. And she has sent out the program list. So any interested participant want to actually be in Bahamas without being there online, this is one way of doing it before you go there. So please make use of that and stay connected. So having said that, enjoy the rest of the evening, and wonderful once again to have you, Swamiji, and thanks to all the participants and everybody who made this program happen today. Thank you. Namaste.